They used to say Adi's Chokuma would never become anything. Not out of malice, at least, not always. In her neighborhood, dreams weren't luxuries. They were burdens. Dangerous things. Children who dreamed too loud either disappeared into the jaws of Lagos or returned broken. So when the girl with tired eyes and oil-stained skirt said, "One day, I'll own a company," people smiled politely. Some even offered small prayers. But deep down, they braced for the inevitable crash. K2 Market didn't make room for ambition. The streets were crowded with people surviving, not thriving. It was a place of scrambling, of loud haggling, of frying oil and diesel fumes and worn-out sandals. It was where Adis grew up watching her mother hustle from sunrise to nightfall, balancing trays of akara on her head while limping from a leg injury that never properly healed. Her father had died when she was 10. A motor accident. No insurance. No savings. Just debt. At 12, Adis learned to count change faster than the bus conductors. At 13, she was managing her mother's store, memorizing customer preferences, tracking market prices in her head. Her classmates gossiped about boys. Adis studied packaging labels in the trash behind supermarkets, wondering why imported beans cost 3 times more when they were just cleaner, better sealed. She started saving in old tins. 20 Nigerian nairas here. 100 Nigerian nairas there. When her mother slept, Adis wrote business plans in the back of school notebooks. She watched YouTube videos in cybercafes. Read free PDFs about sales psychology, branding, logistics. She copied barcodes into paper journals like they were sacred scripts. By 17, she started her first hustle, buying surplus ripe plantains from wholesalers, drying them under the sun, frying them into crunchy chips, and selling them in custom-made transparent packs with printed stickers. Queen Day's Snacks, it said, with a crown above a cartoon version of her mother's face. People laughed. Some stole her ideas. But the flavor was perfect. The packaging was clean. And Adis never missed a delivery. By 21, she had a delivery tricycle, 2 staff, and a deal with a small Lekki supermarket. By 25, she had a warehouse. Then another. Then 3. At 27, Queen Days Foods Limited sponsored its first local food conference. But success wasn't just numbers and milestones. It was scars and sacrifices. Nights when she slept on cold tiles in her office. Weeks when she skipped meals to meet supplier demands. There were losses, betrayals, fake friends, greedy vendors, and moments she wanted to disappear. But she didn't. She sharpened. She grew colder. She smiled less. Yet 2 people stayed beside her through it all. 2 people she never questioned. Zina. Her day one. Her blood sister by choice. They'd met at 12, during a fight over akara and puff-puff. The vendor had mixed up orders. Zina had shouted, Adis had pushed, and somehow, by the end of the scuffle, they were sitting on the sidewalk eating together. From then on, they were inseparable. Zina was fire, bold, wild, reckless. She danced in the rain, flirted with boys, lied to teachers with a straight face. Adis was logic, precision, order. Together, they balanced. Even when Adis grew busier, wealthier, more visible, Zina remained. She worked as her executive assistant. Helped organize events. Knew her passwords. Her mood swings. Her trauma. And then there was Chuka. They met at a business event in Victoria Island. He wore a grey suit, black-rimmed glasses, and an understated wristwatch that whispered old money. But he had no arrogance. He'd approached her after her panel and said, "Your story reminds me of fire, beautiful, but also dangerous." She smiled. They had dinner. Then another. He asked questions about her company like he truly cared. Never once flinched at her ambition. He never said let me lead you. Instead, he asked, how can I walk beside you? She fell. It wasn't a whirlwind romance. It was gradual. Steady. Healing. When she felt the urge to micromanage, he reminded her gently that she didn't have to control everything to feel safe. When she struggled to rest, he would take her phone, hide it, and lure her into long, playful arguments about movies and politics. He proposed 2 years in. The ring was custom, with tiny rubies carved like flames. The inscription read, "To my lioness. Let's burn bright." Zina screamed when she saw it. Cried real tears. Said, I always knew you'd marry a king. Adi smiled. Her life, once a trail of ash, now felt golden. They planned a wedding in Ghana, private beach resort, coral and champagne colors, an altar framed with palm arches. The guest list was elite. The menu divine. Her dress was flown in from a designer in Morocco, hand-stitched with gold thread and freshwater pearls. Everything shimmered. Until it shattered. 3 days before the flight to Ghana, Adiz was alone, packing coral necklaces into velvet boxes when her phone vibrated. Unknown number. One message. They are going to take everything. After the vows. They already booked flights. Ask Chuka about Mauritius. Ask Zina about Project Blackbird. She stared at the screen. Frowned. Spam. But her body stiffened. That name, Project Blackbird, rattled something in her memory. Months ago, she'd reviewed a proposal by that name. It was an aggressive expansion plan involving international warehousing. The numbers seemed too slippery. She rejected it. Forwarded it to Chuka. He had agreed it was shady. And yet, she opened her laptop. Checked her calendar. A meeting invite titled Blackbird was scheduled 2 weeks ago. With her name attached. She never attended that meeting. Never accepted it. But the timestamp said otherwise. A lump rose in her throat. She drove to her Lekki office. Midnight. No security. She accessed the backup security logs. Footage showed Zina entering that night. Alone. Using her master access card. The next morning, Adi slipped into sweetness. She brought Zina pastries. Complimented her dress. Told Chuka she wanted to do something special, maybe open a joint account for their future. He smiled too fast. Said he'd handle it. By night, she waited for him to fall asleep. Then opened his laptop. His password hadn't changed. He was careful. But not with her. A hidden folder. Titled Estate Planning. Inside, a contract transferring company shares to Chuka and Zina under a shell entity, a signed prenup declaring Adiz unstable in case of erratic behavior, flight bookings to Mauritius under new aliases, a detailed withdrawal plan from her personal accounts. She stared at the screen. Her skin prickled. Her ears rang. She felt nothing. And everything like drowning. But also flying. The next morning, she looked Chuka in the eye. Kissed his forehead. Whispered, I love you more than you'll ever know. Then she called her lawyer. She rewrote her will. Froze all pending transactions. Created decoy accounts. Hired a digital forensics team. Paid hackers to trace encrypted exchanges between Chuka and Zina. She planned the perfect stage. She invited Zina for a private spa day. They drank wine. Took selfies. Adiz laughed until her stomach hurt. Zina laughed too. But there was something extra in her eyes. Almost pity. Almost guilt. Adiz pretended not to see. 2 nights before the wedding, she slipped the final bait, a 40 million Nigerian nairas deposit into the fake joint account. Labeled honeymoon nest egg. Zina accessed it within an hour. On the morning of the wedding, the sun was radiant. The beach pristine. Coral-clad guests danced barefoot. Palm arches framed the altar. Chuka stood in a white agbada with bronze embroidery. He looked regal. Comfortable. Zina wore champagne gold. Her smile was wide. Her eyes shimmered. Adiz walked slowly. Her dress flowed like molten gold. Every step was war. The priest began. Words echoed softly. Birds chirped. Do you, Adiz Chokuma? She raised a hand. Before I say yes, she said, voice calm, I have a gift for you all. A drone buzzed above. Guests looked up, confused. A projector screen descended from palm trees. Then the audio played. Zina's voice, once she says I do, we ghost her ass. I give her 3 days to notice. Chuka's chuckle, 1 week in Mauritius and it's ours. The crowd erupted. Gasps. Cries. Murmurs. Zina froze. Chuka stepped forward. Days. She held up her hand again. Her voice never cracked. Save it. 2 uniformed officers approached the altar. Quiet. Swift. Zina tried to flee. Chuka tried to argue. But the crowd closed in. Adiz turned. Faced her guest. You came here for a wedding. But today is a coronation. She walked away from the altar barefoot. The tide kissed her ankles. The wind lifted her veil like a banner. She never looked back. News of the altar explosion spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, social media was flooded with headlines, billionaire bride exposes fiance and maid of honor in shocking wedding twist. From vows to arrest, the Queen Days scandal. Clips from the projector video went viral. Gossip blogs speculated. Business magazines speculated harder. Everyone wanted an interview. Everyone wanted the full story. But Adiz Chokuma gave no press statements. No TV appearances. She disappeared. What they didn't know was that she had checked herself into a secluded wellness estate outside Accra, surrounded by baobab trees and silence. Her assistant, lawyer and discreet, brought her only essentials. No phones. No social media. No reminders of betrayal. There, in solitude, she broke. She wept for 3 days. Her body shook with anger. With shame. With disbelief. She screamed into pillows, punched the ground, cursed God, cursed love, cursed herself. How could I not see it, she whispered again and again. The betrayal had been personal, but the humiliation was public. Her staff. Her investors. Her mother. Everyone had watched her almost marry a man who plotted her downfall. A woman who once held her hand while they shared one piece of roasted corn had tried to gut her soul. But grief only held her briefly. Because Adiz was not made of glass. She was made of clay and iron. Meant to break, but only so she could reshape. After a week of isolation, she returned to Lagos. Not quietly. Not tearfully. But in black silk and braided hair, with no makeup, no ring, no apology. Her first stop. The boardroom of Queen Days Foods. She stood before her executives, all staring in polite discomfort, unsure of what to say. She said it for them. I was betrayed, she said plainly. By the man I was going to marry. By the woman I called sister. They tried to take what I built. They failed. Then she smiled. And now, we rise. There was silence. Then claps. Then the room roared. Adiz didn't cry. She only nodded. Over the next few weeks, she restructured her company. Fired anyone with divided loyalty. Hired a new CFO, a sharp, no-nonsense accountant from Enugu named Ijeoma. She tripled cybersecurity. Brought in business analysts. Rebranded the public image with fire-themed campaigns, from Fire Comes Flavor. From pain comes power. But she wasn't done. At a private press event, she announced Project Phoenix, a 100 million Nigerian nairas fund dedicated to women with big ideas but no backing. "I was once a girl with nothing but fried plantains and rage," she said into the microphone. "I still have the rage. But now, I also have resources. And I choose to share them." The room rose in applause. Photos of her in red silk, flames painted behind her, flooded the internet. She became more than a businesswoman. She became a movement. Meanwhile, Zina and Chuka's trial moved swiftly. Thanks to the evidence Adi's team had collected, including signed documents, recorded calls, and financial traces, their case was airtight. They were denied bail. Zina broke down in court. Chuka refused to speak. Their legal team blamed stress and confusion, claiming Adis had misunderstood. But the judge wasn't buying it. Neither was the public. The betrayal became a national cautionary tale. Radio hosts debated it. Pastors preached sermons on it. People whispered warnings at weddings: "Make sure your Zina isn't plotting behind your back." But Adis wasn't listening. She was busy rebuilding her empire and herself. She stopped wearing gold. Switched to black and red. Fire colors. Power colors. She began practicing capoeira. Took boxing classes. Not for protection, but control. She started sleeping again. But not in fear. In peace. One evening, months after the wedding, she hosted a private dinner for young female entrepreneurs. There, she met Amoka. Quiet. Intelligent. Soft-spoken. A software engineer from Ibadan with a disruptive idea about mobile food delivery for rural markets. Adis asked questions. Amoka answered with passion and precision. Her voice shook, but her vision didn't. After the dinner, Adis walked her to her car. "Your pitch is good," she said. "You need sharper branding. A ruthless operations team. And better shoes." Amoka laughed, looking down at her dusty flat. "I used to sell akara barefoot," Adis said. "Now I wear Louboutins. But it's not the shoes that matter. It's the woman walking in them." Amoka's eyes widened. A week later, Queen Days invested in her startup. With mentorship, office space, capital. Within 6 months, it was a growing force in 3 states. Adis didn't just give her power. She taught her how to wield it. Privately, Adis' heart healed in fragments. There were moments she'd wake at night, still feeling the cold betrayal under her ribs. She would remember Zina's laugh. Chuka's touch. The way they made her feel safe before they fed her to the wolves. But each time, she lit a candle. Sat in silence. And said aloud, "I survived you. I outlived you. I owe you nothing." And slowly, the weight faded. One day, while looking over business expansions into Kenya, her assistant brought her a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm sorry. You were never weak. You were gold. I was just too foolish to see it." There was no name. But Adis recognized the handwriting. She folded it. Lit a match. Watched it curl to ash. Forgiveness wasn't always a grand act. Sometimes, it was just the decision not to let someone live rent-free in your story. Years passed. Queen Days Foods became a continent-wide brand. Adis spoke at the African Women's Business Summit. She graced the cover of Forbes Africa. But she turned down every reality show, every documentary, every attempt to monetize her pain. "My story is not for entertainment," she said once. "It's a blueprint. For those who dare to rise. And love." It came gently. Unexpectedly. A new partner. Slow. Kind. Patient. Not flashy. Not fast. A woman with warm eyes who loved jazz and stayed quiet when Addis needed silence. She never tried to fix her. Only stood beside her when the fire threatened to burn again. Addis never remarried. But she was never alone. On her 33rd birthday, she stood at the rooftop of her headquarters in Abuja. The wind tousled her braids. The city glowed beneath her. She raised a glass to the sky. To every girl who lost everything, she whispered. May you find the fire inside you. May you burn louder than the world expected. And may no one, not a lover, not a friend, ever dim your crown. She drank. Below, the city buzzed. Above, the stars washed. And in the heart of it all stood Addis Chukwuma. The girl from K to . The queen who didn't just survive betrayal. She made it beg for mercy.